Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Sabrina and Ben Real Estate Hour here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're glad to have you back, Ben. You've been skipping out the past couple of weeks.
I'm well rested. I don't know, 5?
I'm doing something wrong. What is this about resting? You've been taking it easy on the beach somewhere?
I think that's an important aspect. It's all about work-life balance, right? I mean, look how happy I am today.
I'm telling you.
I am glad to be here, folks.
And you quit shaving.
Yes, I did. I'm planning on going to Alaska soon.
A full beard.
Alaska's going to be the next trip. It's the next trip.
Awesome.
I'm just kidding, but
well, while you've been out having fun, we've been working. We've been working very, very hard. Let me just tell you, I have to. I don't want to brag. I'm a humble person, but I have to tell you that the real estate market is truly unbelievable right now. We just listed a house on Signal Mountain last week within 24 hours, under contract, full purchase.
24 hours.
Within 24 hours.
So say listing for me.
Within listing.
Sold.
That's it.
Listing.
That's
sold.
our motto. That's
listing
our motto.
sold. Listing sold.
And so then we list one in East Ridge. Less than 24 hours. Listing sold. Exactly. And now we sold one in East Brainerd over near you off Radio Circle. So the neighbor saw how fast that listing sold. So they called and said, hey, come put our house on the market. We did. Guess what? Listing.
Sold.
You got it. It is unbelievable. And we need more houses to sell. That's the bottom line. We need more houses.
List your house today.
There's never been a better time to sell. These sellers, like I said, they're getting full purchase. In some instances, especially when we get more than one offer, they're getting above the list price. It's unbelievable. The best the market has been since 2008.
Wow.
So
and that's a good time because 2008 was not a great year.
No.
For a lot of folks in their financial life. There's a lot of fear. I remember this thing called the Dodd-Frank bill that was announced that year.
Yeah.
That put a lot of fear into my business plan.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, we had the banks running scared. They weren't letting go of any money. They weren't making loans. We had appraisers running scared. They weren't giving any value to any of the properties.
That's
so
right.
Things have really, really gotten better. And I know it's a great time to sell.
Speaking of getting better.
It's a great time to buy, too. And this is where you come in. I know that you are just ready to pre-qualify some buyers, and I know you have some new programs. I want you to tell us about your new program. For anyone thinking about buying out there.
So you hear all this stuff about listing sold, and then you wonder, well, are they for real? Can they really be a good time to buy? How can it be both sides? And the truth of the matter is no one here has a crystal ball. But I can tell you that somebody did predict back in October that Trump would be the presidential nominee, and I will brag on myself for that. So here's what I want to say. I don't have a crystal ball, folks. I make educated guesses, and I'm right, hopefully a little bit more than half the time. But no, seriously, my success depends on my client's success.
Right.
Because when my clients are successful, guess what? I am not only successful, but they come back, they tell people about me. They tell folks that I did a good job.
That's what it's all about.
It's the same thing for you. It's the same thing for the politicians, which, by the way, we might just have a politician here in a few minutes, and I think I see him standing by. But we do have a special guest. I want to get into that here in a minute. But, our success depends on the transparency of our business. And it is a great time to buy right now.
Well, it depends on happy clients, too.
Right.
We've got to have happy clients because they're going to go out and tell their friends and their family. And thank goodness, you've really conquered it when you are working on referral business. That means you're doing something right.
Amen. 20% of my business is from an unhappy situation where the client's in process with some other lender and the train has come off the tracks. And they're laying over there in the grass or something next to the tracks, and they almost come desperate. And that brings me a lot of joy. I know it does you too. Yeah. When you can take a bad situation and make it even better than the original expectation.
Oh yeah.
So that's why we're here. So back to why it's a good time to buy right now. There's a lot of you folks that are under the age of 40-ish, and you guys are just now starting to buy a home. You've been holding out on me a little bit too long. It's time to buy.
That's right.
There's a new product out, and it's truly a gift. It's truly a gift of a product. It's called the 1% Conventional.
Let's hear about it.
Let's hear about it. All right. Here's the catch. let's go ahead and get the catch.
There's always a catch.
I like to start with the negative first. If you have under 700 credit score, don't call me on this product. Okay. This is for good people. This is for people that have the best credit score. If you're a little under 700, talk to me. Let's get your score up. How about 1% down, folks?
So it's the threshold 700?
700 FICO. 700 FICO. End of story. 699 does not qualify. So this is for good credit borrowers, and we're just going to call that good. Okay. 700 is good. If you're under 700, like I said, call me. I'll walk you through it. We walk 500 people through it a month. So
well, if they're under 700, don't give up because you can turn them on to another product like an FHA loan or something like that.
Hey, I grew up when I was a boy. I ate beans out of a can for 2 weeks in a row. Yeah. Don't give up, folks. That's right. I'm standing here I feel like I'm a pretty successful person, and I'm pretty excited about my today and my tomorrow. And I didn't do it by feeling that it wasn't going to happen. Right. I remember being in an apartment complex and the bad area of town and looking down and seeing a limo pass when I was a little kid. And I remember thinking, I wonder if I'll be able to ride in something like that someday. And what's so funny is now I'm 39 years old. I would care less about riding in a limo. But I remember
back look at that Ferrari.
But no, I remember that question. And, you know, we all have forks in the road that we're coming to. Right. And just like this 1% product that I'm teaching people about right now, you come to a fork in the road about whether or not you can. Can I do that? And a lot of times, I think too often times, and this is why I'm on here right now, as passionate as I can be, you've got to take the high road. Yeah. You've got to believe more than what that devil that's always going to keep attacking you is telling you you aren't good enough. You can't get to this. So let me tell you, 700. We just went 700 credit score. You got to get there. But if you're not there, talk to me about it.
What is 1%?
Okay, here's what it is. First of all, the best loan out there that's a reasonable loan is 3% down. Exactly. 1% down is what this product is. That what this is? So you can buy a $300,000 house
with $3,000 down.
$3,000 down. Okay, now that I've got your attention.
What's the interest rate running on that?
Awesome. If you bought a $271,000 FHA home, the payment would be about $100 less, and you'd have $5,500 less invested in the house. And here's the best part. You're going to get 2% gifted from your lender. So you put 3% down, but you really didn't put 3% down.
So you're only coming out of pocket 1%, and the lender is fronting the other 2% for you. How are you doing that?
I'm doing that in conjunction with Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac is interested in helping certain underserved areas, okay, which is not a catch actually, but the driving force here is that there is no income limitation. If you're a doctor today making $500,000 a year, you can come see me about 1% down if you don't own a home today.
So how do you determine whether or not the property itself qualifies?
Okay. So every property qualifies, period, end of story. Every residential property. Okay. However, if there's two areas in this world we live in, there's served areas, what has been deemed served areas, like East Brainerd is a very served area. Right. But then there's underserved areas. St. Elmo is an underserved area, and there's plenty of doctors that want to live in St. Elmo. That's true. So you can go buy a $450,000 house, but let's say $425,000. You can put 1% down and do a $417,000 loan with me with 1% down, and you can still make $500K a year, and you're fine. In East Brainerd, only the millennial that's making less than $65,000 a year, there's an income limitation for certain homes in certain tracts, certain areas of the county that are considered. Gotcha. Hey, this area is served. Gotcha. So it's a program that we got the funding through the government to help spur on action from these millennials. But in actuality, it's serving a lot more, and it's for qualified buyers. Look, we're looking for 700 FICO. End of story.
And I know you, Ben. If you can make it work for someone, you're going to do everything you can to make it work. Amen.
And we don't try to make it Mount Everest, because that certainly can put everybody at risk. But look, there's no hill that we can't climb. We just have to assess the situation. We have to determine what the best actions are, and we will look and see what those outcomes are from there. Exactly. Look, folks, the 1% program is something you need to look into. If you don't own a home, if you have pretty good credit, you need to give me a call today. 805. Yeah, 805-9100. It's a 10-minute phone call. There's no obligation. There's no cost to this to find out how much you can save. And with a lot of folks out there, a client that had just talked to us today, it saved them $5,500 on a $250,000 loan. Okay, on awesome. That house. So they were looking over there in Ottawa. That Bell developed, Jay Bell's putting a lot of houses out there. Yeah. So they were looking there. Those homes are running 220 to 250, and they can do FHA with 3.5% down, and then putting literally like $9K down, or they can put $2,500 down, have way less closing costs, save about $5,500 out of pocket, about $5,500, that's unreal. And their payment's going to be about $80 to $90 lower.
Tell them again how to contact you, and I'm going to bring our guest in here in just a minute.
It is time. Okay. If you want to know about the 1% or you want to know about mortgage financing, you want to get pre-qualified, 805-9100, give us a call, or you can go online and get a quick quote at homerate.mortgage.com.
And if you're thinking about selling your house, we are short on listings because we keep selling them like hotcakes. Call Sabrena Realty, 423-499-7780. That's 423-499-7780. Our team is standing by and would love to come out and talk to you about selling your home. We have with us in the studios today, we're so honored to have State Senator Bo Watson.
Who is this guy?
Thank you, Bo.
Good morning.
He looks so distinguished.
He is. He's very distinguished.
I feel underdressed today. Tell us, Bo, and by the way, we appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule because I know you are everywhere. And I appreciate the fact that you're everywhere.
Yeah, I think you're more prevalent around town than I am. I see you at everything, so maybe we see each other.
Maybe he just
everywhere.
Doesn't realize it yet, Sabrina.
We're both trying, and we're both working hard, and that's good. Tell us, Bo, for anyone listening that doesn't understand maybe what district you represent and what areas, let's start off by you kind of telling the makeup of your district, the area you represent. I know that you're on the same election cycle as the governor, and you don't run again till 2018, so this is an election season for you. However, people may not understand what area you represent, so kind of tell them about that.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here, and I'm interested. The 1% thing sounds very enticing. When you said 1%, I thought we were going to get into a political conversation about it, but
we can go
given that the 99% were meeting in a convention last night, and the 1% apparently were watching. Anyway, okay. I digress.
It was hard to watch, by the way.
Well, you're in my district now. We're in Hickson. This is part of my district. There are two senators for Hamilton County, myself and Todd Gardenhire, who is up for re-election this time, and I would encourage all the voters to help send Todd Gardenhire back to the Tennessee Senate. He's a valuable member. But I serve in the Tennessee Senate. There are 33 members, so there are 33 Senate districts. My Senate district is all contained within Hamilton County. If you live in the Signal Mountain area, the Red Bank area, the Falling Water area, the Montlake area, the Saudi Days area, Bakewell, Middle Valley, Hickson, all that stretch up north of Hamilton County, you're in my district. When you cross over the river, you're in Birchwood, Ottawa, most of Collegedale, Harrison, all that area is in my district. I cover about 2/3 of the land mass of Hamilton County. Wow. Senator Gardenhire has downtown Chattanooga, and then runs along the southern border, which would put him through East Ridge, through parts of East Brainerd, East Brainerd, and then he goes over into Bradley County, and he goes along the southern border of Bradley County, and then hooks around to the north on the eastern side of the county. Right. The reason the district's drawn that way, in 2010, Sabrina, we went through the constitutional requirement of redistricting, and Senator Gardenhire's district used to go over into Marion County. And when we looked at the economic development and the way economic development is occurring, it made more sense to bring that district east and move it over into Bradley County. And so that's why Senator Gardenhire's district's now over there.
Yeah. Now, is that called gerrymandering? And is that part of that?
Well, we like to say 2010 was the first time in 150 years that Republicans actually had the opportunity to draw the maps of Tennessee. And we would like...
How many years?
150. There was Democrat control of the Tennessee General Assembly dates back to the late 1860s. But anyway, in 2010 was the first opportunity that the Republicans had to draw the map, and we would make the argument that we ungerrymandered the district. As a matter of fact, of all the states, and everybody redistricts constitutionally in 2010, of all the states that have had federal court challenges, Tennessee is the one lone state that has been held up in federal court. Wow. We've not had to redraw our districts because they were drawn fair and legally and met the requirements of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to equitably represent the populace.
Now, how many terms have you served, Bo? I know you've been there a while, because I remember.
I don't like it when you say you've been there a while.
Well, I mean, you're still young. You started, weren't you spring chicken when you started?
People on the radio, they can't see me. They think I'm some old geezer standing up here.
They'll have to pull you up on YouTube later.
That was a nice segue. I'll set you up for that.
I know. You owe her one.
I was first elected in 2004. Actually, Gerald McCormick and I, Leader McCormick, we are classmates to the General Assembly, and Joanne Favors. We all went in at the same time. I didn't realize that. And I served in the House for 2 years, and then in 2006, I was elected to the Senate, and I've been in the Senate ever since then. Now, currently in the Senate, I'm the Speaker Pro Tem, which is the second-ranking member of the Senate body, which basically that job involves helping the Senate run on time. It also means that in the event that the Speaker, who is the Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey, if he's out, away, sick, something happens to him, then the Speaker Pro Tem assumes the Speaker's position. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Finance Committee, Vice Chairman of the Health Committee, and I also serve on the Commerce Committee. So those are all three really big committees, and it's good for Hamilton County that we have representation on those committees.
Very true. I'm curious, Bo, because we've never talked about, and I like.
Well, you're so much younger than me because I've been in the legislature so long.
Got that. We're tied, folks. We're tied.
I know. We've never even talked about, and I think it's important for our listeners to get to know our elected officials on somewhat of a personal basis as well. Tell us kind of how you got involved in politics. You probably had a mentor or someone who encouraged you, because I know it's not something we just go out there on a whim and do. So tell us kind of how you got involved in politics. And I think, do you do physical therapy? Is that
right? Well, I'm from Chattanooga, born and raised here. Actually, my early years were over in North Chattanooga. We lived on Graham Street, for those that are familiar. I went to Normal Park Elementary School. But when I was about 4 years old, my dad, who worked at Provident Life and Accident Insurance Company in the group department for about 41 years, he thought it was about time for the family to move to the country, which at that time was Hickson, Tennessee. So we moved out here when Hickson Pike was still a 2-lane road, that there was a barn on top of a hill where Northgate Mall now exists. There was actually a hospital and a hardware store where the auto parts store is now in Hickson. We moved down here, and of course, Hickson's developed immensely since that period of time. I have 4 older sisters. I'm the youngest of 5, which means I have lived a very charmed life.
You're trained right. If you grew up under 4 women, I know you're trained right.
Exactly. If you're into equal rights, I knew all about that long before it was a political thing, and I know that girls rule the world. I understand that, and I've accepted my position in stature line. I had 2 great parents. They really believed strongly in education and did the best they could to provide their children the best education that they could possibly provide. I was fortunate enough. I went to the Baylor School after Normal Park Elementary School. I went to the Baylor School for at that time junior high and high school. My sisters all went to Northside Junior High, which is now Normal Park Middle, and to City High School, which now is the Creative Arts School for the Creative Arts. So I'm one of those people. I don't have any story of a terrible upbringing. I mean, my parents were just good people, good, hardworking people, and instilled in us, I believe, all of their children the value of the value of education, and most importantly, I guess, from my parents, the value of hard work. That we're rewarded for our labor, and sometimes you got to labor for a while before you get rewarded. But they also felt like, because they had provided us with a good education and good opportunities, they also taught us that there comes a point in life where it's your responsibility to give back or make things better for those that come behind you. It's the It's the teach one. First you see one, then you do one, then you teach one. So they very much believed in mentoring and showing people how they can improve their lot in life and improve their stature. My life evolution into the legislature or into elected political office isn't a great story of some great overseas experience where I saw abject poverty and I came back and I wanted to do something great for mankind. It actually goes back to 8th grade civics, and a guy, I'll give Coach Bill McMahon a shout out, 8th grade civics, and a fascination that I had, and everyone in my family has, with American history, and a fascination with the American form of government, which is a democratic Republican form of government. I got sort of passionate about that in middle school. I'm actually a science-oriented person. I went to UTC and graduated with a degree in biology and went to physical therapy school in Memphis. But I always had this side interest in history, side interest in government. I used to do like you probably did, like you do, sit around the kitchen table and give my opinion on everything that was happening.
Oh, yeah.
And my buddies got tired of hearing me doing all this all the time. And so one day an opportunity arose and they basically called me out on it. I had not been a political operative. I spent most of my time working. I work at Park Ridge Medical Center. And I had a young family. So most of my time, like most Tennesseans, was spent just trying to make a living and trying to provide for my family. And as I got older and circumstances changed for me and things got better, I was able to begin get more and more interested in the political world. Well, in 2004, an opportunity arose. As you know, Sabrina, political opportunities, windows open and windows close very quickly, kind of like the houses that you sell. You know, they go to the market, then they're gone very quickly. So you've got to strike when the iron's hot. We put together a campaign, and with really kind of just learning our way through the process, we're able to be successful in our first election, which is a little bit unusual for a state race. A lot of times people have to run a couple of times before they're successful. My value was that, I've been here virtually all of my life. I've lived on the north side of the river virtually all of my life. And I had because it was a House district and it was a district that I grew up in, I already knew a lot of the people in that district and a lot of the people already knew me.
Well, I'm glad you did it.
Yeah. I hope you'll stay for the second half because I've got some questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
And,
we're just now skimming the surface. We're about to get into it.
Okay, good stuff. So he will stay for some more.
He's going to be here the whole.
I'm thinking about selling my house if they're going that quickly.
That's right, and he wants to know more about this 1%.
That's right. Bo Watson is here. This is 12:40 a.m. Hot News Talk. We have the best real estate agent in Chattanooga, standing right next to me, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Sabrina, tell folks how they can reach your team right now.
423-499-7780. That's 499-7780, or go to our website, SabrenaRealty.com. We have some great listings. You better get them while they last because they are selling quick. I am not kidding. Unreal.
Hey, we'll be back. We've got Bo Watson with us, and we've got some questions. If you want a question to Bo, give us a call, and I will take that question to him. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Ben Phillips with Home Rate Mortgage, and I've got Sabrina Smedley with Sabrena Realty. And we have Bo Watson here with us, Senator of Tennessee here in the Hamilton District, right?
District 11.
I have all these questions written down. You can already tell how the time's flying. And I know you had a question, Ben. What kind of question did you have?
Well, okay. First of all, your parents taught you education. Yeah. They taught you the importance of education, the value of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yep. So I'm just going to get into the heart of it. So what can you do? What can you persuade your fellow senators and House members up there in the legislature? What do we need to do right now in education? What changes can we make? Because it appears, and this is just to sort of throw out, you can agree or tell me if I'm wrong at all. It seems like our test scores have been kind of going in a downward trend over the past so many years. We hear society saying that we're getting dumber, that our kids are not getting math, reading, and science in a way. They're not getting smarter. They're getting dumber in those areas.
We're leveling the playing field.
Yeah. So what can you do as a senator what do you believe in that your parents instilled in you? What can you do right now for us that you need my help in persuading the world and every voter's out there? What do we need to do in education?
Well, let me clarify a couple of things.
Sure.
Number one, test scores in Hamilton County may not be performing as well as the rest of the state, but test scores across the state are actually a lot higher than they used to be.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, probably when I was in school, which would be in the 70s and late 70s, Tennessee probably ranked 47th, 48th in education.
I remember that.
Well, today, Hamilton County's there now.
Yeah. Today we rank in the lower 30s.
Okay.
And that's occurred over the past 10 years. We've made incredible progress. As a matter of fact, this is going to shock you. As a state, Tennessee is now looked at one of the most transformed, reformed educational states in the country. Other states actually come to look at what we're doing with education, public education, to learn from some of the things that we've done. We led the nation. There's a test given every 2 years. It's called the NAEP. It's a national assessment. Tennessee, although we don't have the highest scores, Tennessee showed the highest improvement, the largest gains that the test has ever recorded over the past 2 years. Now, that's the state in total. Okay. My responsibility, and then I'll let you ask me your next question, but my responsibility is to do the best I can to set educational policy, to help set educational policy that allows for our educational system and our educators to provide to our children the best education that we possibly can. And along with that, to try and fund or try and provide the necessary resources to execute that plan. That's the challenge. We can put things on a piece of paper, and they look very good on a piece of paper, just like you can put out a home mortgage on a piece of paper. But the ability to execute that plan is where the challenge exists. And I tell you, the biggest problem we have in this state is the inability of our citizens to read effectively.
Yeah. Oh, and our third and fourth graders, I mean, it's astonishing. About 64% aren't reading on grade level. And I think that here in Hamilton County, that what we're really lacking is true leadership. And I think there's an opportunity here locally. We elect the right people to go serve on the school board, which it's important to go vote August the 4th, anytime between now and then. And then, because their greatest task, in my view, is going to be to pick the right superintendent who's going to turn it around, because you're right, Bo. It's here locally in Hamilton County where really our numbers are not where they should be, and we've got to turn that around. I wanted to ask you something about roads, because I know that's probably going to be a hot topic coming up in the next session. Being in a district where there's significant growth, we're experiencing a lot of development. Therefore, we've got a lot of traffic on our roads, commuting up and down our roads. So, therefore, we've got critical infrastructure needs. I'm happy to say that East Bryan Road's being widened and Appleton Pike. Those are long overdue. But I know the state, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm on the transportation committee for the commissioners, and I've gone to some of those meetings. And I think they had said that we were like $6 billion backlogged in road projects. And by the end of the year, we may be somewhere about $8 billion. And I'm talking billion, not million, backlogged. And I know Tennessee's a pay-as-you-go state. We pay for our roads, don't issue bonds and stuff like we're very fiscally responsible. So tell us, Bo, what you see. I know that this is probably going to be something that's going to have to be addressed soon. And when you think it will be, and if you think it's going to be in the next session.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's make sure everybody understands how we pay for roads in Tennessee. Yeah. Okay? We have a dedicated fund. We do not use general fund dollars for roads and bridges. That is purely from the user fees that we pay when we buy gasoline. Referenced as a gas tax, but it's really a user fee.
So gas pays for roads.
Gas pays for roads and bridges. And there are two pots. There's a federal pot, which goes to Washington, D.C., and then every dollar that Tennesseans send to Washington, D.C. out of the user fees for roads, 90 cents of it comes back to Tennessee. So we don't get 100% of our dollars back.
And how much per gallon?
Oh, you caught me with a question. I'm off.
No worries, but it's some percentage, some small percentage.
Yeah, everybody pay, so you pay a federal tax, and then you pay the state tax or user fee. Now, the beauty of gas tax is that it truly is a user fee. I mean, if you drive a car
Mhm.
up to the gas pump and you put gas in it, you are then going to drive on a road.
Right.
So you're essentially paying for the use of that road. Right. The last time we adjusted our gas user fee was in about 1986, middle 80s.
Mhm.
We haven't adjusted it since. Now, a car in the middle 80s probably got, what, 12, 14 miles to a gallon.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
So now a car gets 26, 28, 30 miles to a gallon. In essence, you are paying half the user fee to drive that car on our roads.
We have a bigger population too, though, Bo.
Yeah, but you're paying half as much as you were. And so the argument has been made that it's time to revisit the gas tax, the road user fee, and see if it's time to make an adjustment to it. Now, the federal level, they've been having this conversation. Here's how the federal dollars work. Let's say the project that's going on East Brainerd Road, or the project that's going on downtown, the state will have to make a significant match to what the feds offer. So if the feds bring $80, the state would have to come up with the other $20. So that's kind of how that math works. We have in our pipeline about $6 billion worth of potential road and bridge projects. Under the current funding mechanism, remember, dedicated fund out of the gas user fee, of the dedicated funds, there's no way to do those projects. And so the congestion that you now see in many of the metropolitan areas, particularly around Chattanooga or the roads in your community, is because they're on a list to be done, but we don't do them until we have them paid for. And that's the pay-as-you-go that you referenced. We have never gone into debt to pay for those. Now, why is that important for the community to understand? Because we don't spend money servicing debt. Florida, Texas, for example, has about $18 to $20 billion of road debt. So a large portion of the tax dollars that they take in, they're just servicing their debt with it. They're paying off their debt.
Absolutely.
We don't do that. That also means that our citizens have to be more patient, because we're going to take a longer time to build a road. We just are. We're going to pay for it. So if we want to do some of these projects, and some of them are very huge projects, like redoing the interchange at I-24 and 75.
Isn't that all federal dollars?
State has to come up with a match.
Okay.
So if it costs,
whose decision is that? Is that federal decision or state?
Well, those are federal highway systems that the state uses and the state helps maintain. And so, because of that, it's a relationship between the federal government and the state government. And so, if we're going to do the project, the state is going to have come up with its portion. And remember, our federal government is $19 trillion in debt.
You just nailed it for me, brother. You just nailed it for me. So you got instilled these values by your parents about education, but then you also told me at the beginning of this program that Coach Bill McMahon was sort of like a first person that inspired you to get into politics. And this isn't a tough question, but this is my sincerity from my heart. Look, if you want to help the future, then you've got to make the future better. What are you going to do for me as a voter and for the listeners out here to reduce this 19 trillion? How can you help me stop it? Because if the 19 trillion continues,
vote Trump. Vote Trump. What else you going to do?
But I want to hear from him. I've been hearing from you for a while. And you were hearing it from me. So let's.
Well, I mean, if you really want an honest answer.
No, I want the straight up answer, not the politician answer.
Right, I want an honest answer. The honest answer is, if you want to reduce the federal debt, then individual citizens, local communities, and states themselves have to be willing to spend less money. All the money that the federal government spends is not necessarily just on federal programs. Look, the state, we have a road program that we share with the feds. We have Medicaid, which is the largest growing part of our budget that we share with the feds. We have all different kinds of programs that the government has gotten into that the citizens want. I mean, last night during the Democrat convention, you heard all the other new things that were being offered: free college tuition,
eliminate their debt,
Social Security that would go beyond what we do now, universal health care. I mean, these are all things. They may all be well intentioned and good, but they all cost money.
Yeah, but
so if the one role that the state can play in all this is, states have to be willing to fund some things that they haven't done in the past. or not do them. If you want to lower, if you want the federal government to spend less money on roads, then you're going to build less roads in your community, or you're going to pay for the roads through your own citizens' tax dollars.
Okay, I got a quick 1 second answer to the best of your ability. What's our federal government spending on defense every year?
Oh, the federal defense.
$1 trillion.
Oh, it's a small amount.
Right? No, just trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
So how many?
Oh, I don't know the number.
2 trillion.
I don't know the number.
Oh, what's the healthcare? What do we spend on healthcare every year?
Oh, healthcare has now grown to be 18% of our GDP.
Which
so whatever our gross
domestic
GDP
is like what 4 trillion?
Yeah, something like
so that. So 18% of that's like 800 million.
Oh, it's a huge amount. Yeah,
800 billion.
Yeah.
So why don't we just take all those biggest things and cut them in half for a couple of years and see if we can't get this 19 down to 16? Because see, I'm a business owner. I run a business. There's employees actually counting on me. There's clients counting on me, and I've taken risk. You no matter what, we're taking risk in things we do. Sometimes we build some debt, but then we plan to make that debt a wise investment to get the debt down. And we don't currently have debt. And I'm so blessed to not have debt in my business. It's just month-to-month debt. And at some point, I had to draw a line and cut back what I paid myself. And whether it's defense, no one wants to talk about defense. I'm willing to cut my head off, y'all. What are we going to do for this 19 trillion? Not to go to 40 trillion, game over.
Well,
because
yeah.
I can't.
Well, it matters who governs. I mean, I'm sorry, it matters who governs. If you look at where our country is headed right now, we're headed.
There will be no defense.
We are headed in. It's not a direction that's conducive to business. It's a direction that's leading us right into socialism.
I agree with that. I have more regulation on my business today. And every year it's more and more. I've got more forms. I got 140 forms to sign in my RESPA packet. And it's not like someone else or my competitor has less forms to sign. It's a legality thing. I have to get every one of those forms signed. And we make it easy. That's how we distinguish ourselves or niche the product. But Bo, we've got to get the regulation out. How do we do that? How do we take the taxes out? How do we take out everything? How do we win?
Yeah. And I can't speak to all the federal issues because I don't deal with those on a day-to-day basis. I can tell you within the state of Tennessee, in the past, since Governor Haslam has been in office and since there has been a Republican House and a Republican Senate, we have reduced the state's expenditures on government $500 million.
That's unreal.
That's awesome.
And how many jobs have been created?
That's $500 million. Well, I mean, we've shrunk the size of state government both by not only monetarily, but by individuals as well, and hopefully those people have moved on to the private sector. We certainly put in place an educational program for those folks that they can be retooled so that they can use their skill set in the private sector. So the state of Tennessee, we are one of the best. We are always ranked as one of the top 5 best financially managed states in the country. The way we fix
maybe we need to send one of you to be president of the United
States. Let's be fair to the federal side. There are a lot of people who want to make cuts as long as their cuts don't affect their piece of the pie, and that's the problem. And to roll back, no one just. I mean, Senator Corker's been making this argument ever since he arrived in Washington about the federal debt being our biggest liability. But you cannot roll that back instantaneously. History will teach you that you can't do that. This is you're right about this. Is a mindset that has been built since the 30s, and it has evolved, and we're at a point now where it's legitimate to ask you a question: can we really afford to do some of these things that we're doing at the federal level? But I can't control that.
Exactly.
On the state side, states have to have the ability and the desire to say no. For example, there's only 1 or 2 states that take zero federal funding for education. Now, Sabrina looks at the education budget because they have to approve how much they're going to give to them. Imagine if Tennessee decided, well, we're going to help cut the federal debt by not taking any federal dollars. Now, it's only about 10%, I think, of our overall state education budget. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a whole lot of money. It's kind of like when people say, well, the federal government's going to pay 90% of the cost when you expand Medicaid. Well, that remaining 10%, That's a whole lot of money. It's not like a nickel and dime stuff. It's a whole lot of money. So if it goes back to what I said earlier, if you want to cut the federal deficit, then two things have to happen. One is more of the federal budget has to be discretionary. The reason that the costs at the federal level are so high is because of three things, and three things alone: Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
Yeah.
But you don't say defense.
Defense is
that's an easy cut. That's an easy way to cut.
The defense is discretionary. Social Security.
But it's a real cost.
Sure it is. Sure it is. But if you're a businessman and you look at your business, you go, well, my maintenance is a lower cost, but maintenance over time actually saves me money. So do I cut my maintenance fee, or do I go after the more low-hanging
but maybe
fruit?
I need to look at the maintenance and determine, just like that, for me, it's an employee. Maybe that employee's not doing good work.
You and I might philosophically disagree. I believe that the one role that government has in our life is that it is to protect its citizens from enemies, foreign and domestic. And so, and that's, and so
what defense do we have, though, if we don't have the money to do the things that keeps us alive?
Well, again, and I guess I'm not being very persuasive with my argument, but again, if you are unwilling to look at the non-discretionary spending, which is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security,
and I agree that those things,
if you're unwilling to look at those, then you're gonna nickel and dime your reductions, and you're just not gonna have an effect on the larger picture. I mean, there is a gentleman who is known as the Comptroller of the Treasury of the United States of America. He is not elected; he is appointed, and he's appointed for 8 years. Therefore, he has no political tie whatsoever. He's free to do and say whatever he wants to do. For the past 20 years, they have been talking about the economic equation that doesn't work with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, that we need to have a serious conversation with the public about how we're going to deal with those three. The others are important too, but those three are on an unsustainable course. And what happens is we get to a crisis point, as we did a few years ago, and that we'll borrow money in order to make the crisis go away. And then eventually the crisis will come back because of, it's not anybody's fault. It's because no one anticipated the baby boom that occurred in the late 40s and the 50s and the 60s when Social Security was created in the 30s. And we now have that huge population, the largest population in the history of America, that is moving towards retirement. And they all have a stake in Social Security. They all have a stake in Medicare. And they feel like they have paid, as they have, that they've made their payment to that and they are due back. The average Medicare beneficiary has paid in about $150,000 to the Medicare system. They will extract from the system about $350,000. That math doesn't work. And the reason that people like Senator Corker is talking about this is because when that debt has to be paid, it's going to be paid by my children, your children, their children, the children after that.
And then China's going to get their cut too.
Now, to be fair, there are economists who argue that the national debt is a mythical thing, that it's not that important. I disagree with them, but there are those who make that, economists who make that claim. At the end of the day, despite all of these things, we still live in the greatest country in the world, and you can only imagine what it must be like to live somewhere else.
For now, I mean, and we'll get Chuck Fleshman coming here and let you ask him a lot of those questions. I'll try to get him booked. I'll see if I can get him.
You know what? I just got to say, I appreciate you taking those kind of firing questions too, Bo, because not every guy's going to do that. I mean, if you think about it from my point of view, just like the average listener out here, just like me, I didn't even have that grasping of the difference between federal and state, even though I know that they exist separately, but I don't. Sometimes you forget.
Well, let me tell you what we did.
Because you're in office, you're responsible for everything.
Well, that's okay.
Blame everybody, right?
Let me tell you about the great state of Tennessee. Okay, we balance our budget every year because constitutionally we have to. As a matter of fact, the only bill we have to pass when we go into session is the budget as the single most important bill that we passed. Secondly, you'll be proud to know that this year's budget in the state of Tennessee, $34.9 billion. Not perfect, but it's a really good budget, mainly because I helped draft it. But we had zero debt in our budget.
That's awesome. Yeah. See, and I guess to sum it all up, you said, to end with this, would you agree with me on this? Life in America right now, it's run on one word, and it's called confidence. Would you agree with that?
Well, confidence has a lot to do with all of our. Sure, yeah. It's look, whether you like him or not, Bill Clinton made a great statement back in the early 1990s when he was running against George Bush. He said, "It's the economy, stupid." And I don't care what the circumstances are in this country. We're a capitalist society.
We are.
It's the economy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Tony Robbins taught me a long time ago, and some of my the preachers in my life, my mentors in my life, they said that even when things are the worst for you in your personal life, what you have to recognize is that the key to getting up back on top is to have the right attitude, have the framework, state of mind. And we appreciate you coming on today and answering these awesome questions.
Bo does a great job. Yeah. All of our state representatives do. We're so lucky.
Education's better in Tennessee is what I got from today.
Absolutely. Financial position has never been better. We have more Tennesseans working than ever before.
And you're going to be focused on what to do about the infrastructure.
Infrastructure will be a big discussion.
You're going to work on the roads for us, right?
We're trying.
All right, get it done. And you balance the budget, Bo. Thank you so much.
Yep.
We appreciate you. Join us every Tuesday here on the Sabrina and Ben Real Estate Hour. If you're thinking about buying a home or selling a home, call Sabrena Realty 423-499-7780. That's 499-7780. Or visit our website, SabrenaRealty.com. And, of course, if you're thinking about buying a home or need to be pre-qualified, how did they get in touch with you, Ben?
805-9100. It's a 10-minute call. And I was listening to a song the other day. It said, I want to live on the outskirts of heaven. I help people get a piece of heaven. Give us a call today, 805-9100. Thanks for being here.